No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show with Dave Manouk, with Ezra Ginsburg. I'm your host, Drew Mandel, here to discuss the Winnipeg Jets dropping a 3-2 home ice decision in overtime to the Montreal Canadiens, a contest that saw many of the people in the building in downtown Winnipeg adorned in Habs sweaters and jerseys and paraphernalia, as usually happens when an original six Canadian team shows up in our fair city. Gentlemen, nice to see you both on this Monday night. The optimist would say that the Jets battled back from a 2-goal deficit and earned a point, and that's a good thing. The pessimist would say that the Winnipeg Jets, facing a team that was towards the bottom of the NHL standings, I get 20th overall in the NHL, tied for 20th, I suppose, tied for 19th with the Arizona Coyotes. The Jets missed an opportunity to rack up a clean 2 points against the team below them in the standings. Both things can be true. It just does depend on the lens that you want to look at it through and whether your glass is half full or half empty. My water bottle is full of water, but I'll let you guys determine what your glass is.
I got a water here too, Dasani, courtesy of True North. That comes from Canada Life Center, specifically courtesy of Dave M. Look, we've got the comment from our good friend Chef Richard there. I mean, yes, it sucks when you have to kill off a penalty in overtime, but the Jets weren't great through the first couple periods. The first period was fairly uneventful for both teams, guys, right? Like, not just the shots, but there just wasn't a lot going on. Dylan Sandberg rings it off the iron, right? Cole Perfetti had a good chance late in the game, pretty late in the first period. But it was obviously the second period where, Montreal did their damage. And, it wasn't like a period where you would say that, Montreal badly outplayed the Jets or anything like that. Actually, to the opposite of that, I remember Morgan Barron had a really good chance in that second period that stood out for me. Obviously, his brother gets the overtime winner that we'll get into in the Betway game recap. But yeah, it was a bit of a sleepy game for the Jets, right? Like, and you wondered, like, coming off of two really emotional wins over LA and Colorado, Montreal is just a team, right? Like, it's not like, they've got good players, and that top line of Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, and Uri Slafkovsky, there's a lot of speed and skill on that line. But it was the second line. It was the Josh Anderson show in the second period. Jake Evans is the center. Veteran Sean Monahan is the other player on that second line. But Josh Anderson, for a guy that many people think will be traded, Dave, before the trade deadline, that was probably his best game of the year. So give the Habs credit here. But really, this was a coin flip game. Either team could have won it, and it's just tough when, the Jets are killing off a penalty to start the overtime. It's just, it's a tough situation to be put in. And the thing is, a lot of people I know didn't like that penalty because they thought Ehlers was interfered with. But prior to that, Drew, I don't know if this stood out to you, but David Savard basically mauled Nikolai Ehlers, and they didn't call it. And I said to Dave, we're watching the third period here, and I'm saying, like, the Zebras obviously aren't going to call anything here. But Nikolai Ehlers, that was a trip, boys. A trip is a trip.
About it. There's no question that was a penalty, and the officials are not going to call anything that is iffy. Late in the game, and they're not going to call it for the Jets, and they're not going to call it for the Habs. So it goes both ways, and that is game management. And the officials, the NHL tries to deny that game management exists, and all the leagues try to deny that it exists. But again, when you have human officials, they are undoubtedly influenced by the human conditions and the circumstances that are occurring during the game. So there's no question at all that yes, Ehlers may have been interfered with off the draw before he took the tripping penalty, but that's not going to get called in that scenario at almost any point in time, Dave. But his penalty, which was rightfully called, was just so blatant that the officials couldn't overlook it. It's I mean, look, the Jets didn't lose this game because of officiating. There's calls you may not have agreed with, and we'll get into that one, of course, being the second goal that the Habs scored when we get into the Betway game recap. But, the Jets, look, the Jets controlled a lot of the play. The Jets had if you look at the advanced stats, the expected goals for the Jets at 5-on-5 were 2.6 to 1.6 for the Habs. So, there was a fair bit.
Well, the third period was as one-sided for the Jets as you're going to see, right? I said to Dave, I thought the Jets were still going to win this game after it was 2-1 after 2. And like at the shots at one point were like 12-2 for the Jets, right? Like, so the Jets were all over the Habs. But you're right, Drew. I mean, you give a team opportunities on the power play, and that's the difference. The Habs converted their chance on the power play, and that was obviously a huge goal. Chances, because Justin Barron, I don't know how much time the Ehlers penalty had almost expired when Justin Barron scored, but that actually was a power play goal. I wasn't sure if that was, but 2 power play goals, that's the difference. 1 goal. It's a 1-goal game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Yeah, exactly right. I mean, look, Dave, the Jets, I mean, I don't think the Jets they're not going to be thrilled with how they played, because they didn't play a great game. That first period was as sleepy as a first period can get. But anytime you battle back again from a 2-goal deficit, and it's not sustainable to continually be down by 2 goals. So I wouldn't suggest that they make that a pattern, despite it looking like a pattern for the last 3 games. You're going to be okay getting a point in this instance, but at the same time, you have to figure, look, we should get 2 against a team like Montreal.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no question about it. They're still very good against the East, 7-0-3 in games against the Eastern Conference. So, I mean, it's a good result for Winnipeg, who it felt like a couple, either last year or the year before, they could never beat the East. So now they flipped that script a little bit. But I mean, I don't think there's a question. You wanted to see, again, the biggest question mark for me was the consistency. Where are you going to be able to see it? And Ezzy's right. I mean, you're not carrying over the emotion of that Colorado game and the LA game, and then bringing it to a game against the Montreal Canadiens. And it's not about like taking them lightly, but it just didn't have the same energy level. And I thought maybe that with a significant number of Habs fans in the building, it would kind of get that energy level up, but it didn't seem to materialize. And again, it was a sleepy first period for both clubs. And unlike, and as I said this, the Colorado game was sleepy in the sense there weren't a lot of shots, but it was still a high energy game, even though it was fairly low event. This was just not. It was just low event. Right. And you kind of thought that favored Montreal and not allowing Winnipeg to really control the play. And they did to a certain degree, but Montreal was opportunistic and they took advantage of their chances. And as he talked about it, special teams, 2 power play goals against. The special teams has been the biggest difference. And with this Jets club, 5-on-5, the Jets team is one of the best in the NHL. But their special teams puts them, I'm going to guess, somewhere in the bottom 10 of the league right now with their power play and penalty kill. Probably 20th to 23rd, maybe a little bit higher on one because they were heating up a little bit, but probably in the, I'll say 18 to 23 range for
power play is 22nd, just ahead of the Montreal Canadiens as it happened. That's entering tonight's game, and the penalty kill is 27th in the league.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, it's so what I'm saying is like they're just not good special teams, and again, you want to have, if anything, you want your 5-on-5 play to be better,
right?
But ultimately, you have to have your special teams cooking, and right now that's limiting this Jets club, and we saw it. I mean, the difference in the game: 2 power play goals. Well, Habs only had 3 goals in total, so you do the math.
Yeah, and also we have to give credit to Jake Allen. Like, Jake Allen was good tonight. He didn't have to steal the game or anything like that. But we talked about especially the third period. I mean, the Jets were absolutely peppering. Made a really nice save on Mark Scheifele. Nick Ehlers made a pass in tight in the slot to Scheifele. He made another save on Morgan Barron in the third period. Like, I thought that fourth line was buzzing, especially earlier in the game. And yeah, like sometimes you just have to say, like, the Habs got the bonus point and it was a close game. But I definitely think that, sleepwalking a little bit through the second period. I think it was Drew that said sleepwalking, or it was somebody in the chat. But like, it was a bit of a slog through parts of the first and the second periods, right? Just not a lot of shots. I thought the Jets were hanging onto the puck a little bit, just not a lot of sustained pressure, not a lot of speed, and not dictating the pace like they were against Colorado and LA, that's for sure. But look, give the Canadians a credit. Like they weren't expected to do a lot this year, and they've actually put together a pretty respectable season thus far. Now, as we get closer to the trade deadline, the Habs are most likely going to be sellers. Jake Allen, speaking of, sellers, he could be a guy on the move as well.
So look, Jake Allen's he's an NHL goaltender. He's a professional NHL goaltender. He has been when he was with St. Louis. He is with Montreal. The problems that Montreal have, and the problems are largely based on the fact that they're just a young team, and their defense, it leaves a lot to be desired. Their back end is where they still need a fair bit of work, but the goaltending is usually going to be solid. It's at least not going to be a huge albatross on their roster. And you saw Jake Allen do that today. He made the saves that he needed to make. Now, I thought Montreal, I'll give them credit, did a fairly good job at keeping the Jets away from the middle of the ice, because there were some juicy rebounds that Allen gave up, and that's always been, what he's done in his career. He's always been known as a guy who gives up maybe a rebound that's a bit too big. But the Jets really weren't able to capitalize on too many of those. I thought the Jets, again, when you play so many emotional games in a row, there's eventually going to be a bit of a letdown, or your legs just aren't going to be as quick. They're not going to be moving as well as they have in previous games. And I thought that the Jets weren't necessarily moving as well in tonight's game.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like they just look against LA and Colorado. You could argue that, the Kings game we talked about on Saturday morning at Farmery. And by the way, thanks again to Farmery Brewery for letting us broadcast from 2 Donald, and everyone who showed up. Obviously, the MVP, I think you guys would agree, of Saturday morning, if it wasn't producer Tim, it was Spency cooking pancakes, bacon, hash browns, and sausages in the parking lot. That was awesome. So obviously shout out to Spency, the man. We talked about, that game against the Kings on the road was arguably their most impressive performance of the entire year. And they followed that up with a pretty resounding win over the Avalanche, right? So, Drew, you're right. I mean, you can't win them all. I don't think that, there's that much. Look, the Jets are still comfortably in a top 3 spot in the Central Division. I don't think anybody's, ringing any alarm bells. Well, but I also think there's something to be said for the fact that the Jets have lost to 2 pretty bad teams in the Sharks and the Habs. Now, I think the Habs are a better team than the Sharks, but these are both 2 teams that will not be playoff teams. No, so I definitely don't think you want to take it too lightly either.
No, but if the Jets had played poorly last year, Dave, and I know we really sort of have to flush last year, but bear with me as we go through this. When the Jets played, didn't bring their A game last year, they would have lost in regulation. They wouldn't have fought back being down 2-0. This is a game, again, it's another sign that this is actually a pretty good Jets team, in that they weren't great tonight. They didn't have a ton going for them tonight, yet they still battled back, yet they still earn a point. So, really, you can't be, anytime you're losing, but you're losing in overtime, it's not going to, cost you terribly standings wise. You're on mute.
Sorry, I was busy. Sorry, Drew. I was busy telling other folks to come join the Illegal Curve post-game show, and
you weren't talking to them. You can
always multitasking, David.
I know, type and talk at the same time.
I could, but when I type, sometimes as he picks up the sound of my typing.
Not with these new mics. That's why we got the new mics. You don't.
Fair
have
enough.
To
I'll never mute it.
Anymore.
I'll never mute again.
Hey, no.
Dave
you
actually
up more often.
Dave
when
has
you're
a
make
sure
a
mic, like a little mic just by the keyboard. He likes He likes people to hear his keyboard.
my keystrokes. It's very key that everyone hears that. Sorry, Drew, I got sidetracked. What did you say?
I was saying that last year. I'm glad you're both typing.
No, I heard you. I just, you got me thinking about my keystrokes, and suddenly I was like,
you were talking about the Jets Habs game tonight, Dave.
Fair enough. Okay, I was thinking about something else. I was thinking about my grocery list.
Yeah, well, you haven't gone shopping for groceries in decades, I would suspect.
Not true. M&Ms.
You should do like Hustler. Hustler does all of his shopping at 7-Eleven.
Well, just ask Ezzy what I've got in my fridge right now.
Bottles of water from the.
I've got water.
Yeah,
Tahini Treat, Pepsi Max, and beer.
I'm surprised you have beer, to be honest.
No, I got some baking soda in there too, Dave.
There might be a little bit of baking soda. Anyways, first of all, before I forget, special shout out to Valerie Cook, a Legal Curve fan.
I know Val.
Well, I do too, because when I got into the elevator,
Of course you do, Drew. You graduated high school with her.
Yeah, that's true. So Valerie was in the elevator with her friend. She's a Jets season ticket holder, and she's a fan of Illegal Curve. She recognized me, said hi. I think she called me Drew first, and then she said, "I mean Dave. Sorry, I recognize that voice. It was the D." So she meant Dave, but she said Drew. But she said she's a big fan. She sent me a message after and said it was really nice meeting me. So a big shout out to Valerie. Thanks for saying hello.
If I recall
Everybody
correctly, if
loves
I'm thinking
Dave
of the
Allen.
right person. I mean, Valerie's used to be at least all over our Twitter feed a bunch, and I think she used to work in the hospitality industry, if I recall correctly. But I could be wrong on that front, so don't quote
I'm not
me on
certain.
that.
We didn't get that far, Drew, because she was only going from the second floor to the first floor to the
You didn't have
third
a lot.
floor.
You didn't get her full bio.
We didn't. So, I mean, anyways, I hope Valerie enjoyed the game. But thank you, Valerie, for the support of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show and post-game show.
That's
and
great.
she
That's
said
terrific.
she's a big fan of the Manuk Moose Minute. She said there should be more. She said it should be called the Manuk Moose
Well, Dave,
Hour.
what's there not to like about the Manuk Moose Minute? I mean,
I can think of something.
I could think of one that's going to be happening today. But anyways, let me get back into Drew's point. I don't disagree with you, Drew. I think this is a team that last year could have folded up their tent and gone home and not, cued the comeback. And you're right. You don't want to be coming back in games. And that's obviously, they did that in Anaheim. They did that against Colorado or LA, whatever, one of the two teams. And the fact of the matter is, this is the third time now in whatever it is, 10 days that they've had to do that.
So you was asking if Valerie is single. Drew, I noticed that you quickly got that comment off.
Yeah, because I don't, I think we might need to get rid of your use of the comments, because I don't trust your judgment most of the time.
I didn't see. I was looking over there, but anyways, boy,
Drew's
this show's
like an
really gone off the
elementary
rails.
school teacher, right? Like he just always has me on a short leash. He's always slapping my hand away.
Yeah.
Okay. Anywho, so the point is that the Jets really, again, you want to see that resilience. I mean, again, we wanted to see the Jets be able to be more consistent and bring the same game that they had played against LA and Colorado into tonight's game. They weren't able to do that. And so that's a problem, mostly because, again, they had a really sleepy start, which they've been consistently been sleepy. We've been talking about their starts haven't been very good. You think about that San Jose game. What did they get outshot? 12-1 to start that game. So their starts have to be better. And their special teams have to be better. And so they're practicing tomorrow at 12 o'clock at Canada Life. And I mean, honestly, I would advocate that they spend their entirety of their time working on their special teams, because
that's what Rick Bowness said in his post-game comments, not to get it too far ahead of us. But to that point, Dave, Rick Bowness was asked by Murat about the special teams. What's wrong with the power play? Quote, "You just said it, standing still, hanging on to the puck way too long. It's not moving. The same thing we've been fighting with all year." And then he says that Winnipeg will have to revamp both units. That special teams lost the game for the Jets tonight. So that's,
And again,
by the way, when the power play is struggling, does every coach not say the exact same thing? You know what I mean? Like, we're standing around, we're being too stationary, we're not shooting the puck enough. Like, obviously, Drew, like, it's worth mentioning the quote from Bones. I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean, Dave? Like, Mark Morrison would probably say the same thing when the Moose power play is struggling, right? We're not moving around enough.
Lately, all their power play has been doing is giving up shorthanded goals. So he definitely would say that. As
right?
No question about that.
A hockey coach will always say, we're being too predictable. That's why we're not shooting the puck enough. Like,
but but again, that's not a surprise, because we've been talking about it for the last few games, right? We're talking about how it's slow. And for a little bit, it moved. There was a little more movement. It was a little quicker. But again, it's what Rick Bowness has talked about. Not what they were falling into the old patterns. And I felt like that's what their special teams look like a little bit. So I don't disagree. I think it's a good idea to move things around right now, because the way it's just not working, and they need to change some things up.
Yeah, and so you're absolutely right. And it's not the first time we've heard Rick Bowness say that the special teams has cost the Winnipeg Jets a game. And like we've said really from the start of the year, when you succeed at 5-on-5, by and large, you're still going to win more games than you're going to lose. But imagine if these special teams for the Winnipeg Jets were just average, which really it shouldn't be difficult for these special teams to be average.
Talent.
With this talent, it should be
and
average.
Without Kyle Connor in the lineup, right? Like, the Jets have enough offensive weaponry that they should still have a good power play without Kyle Connor. Connor is arguably like your best weapon, especially his shot. But with Scheifele and Velarde and Ehlers and Niederreiter, Morrissey, like I could go on here. The power play needs to be better. The PK I'm less concerned about.
Well, and it's not like the power play was great with Kyle Connor either, though. So I mean, you got to also factor that in. It's been struggled on more than one occasion in more than one area. So it's an area of concern for the Winnipeg Jets. Now they're fortunate in that there's not a ton of areas of concern, or the areas of concern for the Jets are on the more minor side than they are on the more serious side, and that is by and large why the Winnipeg Jets have the good record that they have at this point in the season. Even what are they, 18-9-3, even with tonight's overtime defeat. So that's where you're at so far tonight. 3-2, the Habs defeat the Jets. We say good evening again to everyone if you're just joining us. This is the Illegal Curve post-game show. The Jets dropping that 3-2 decision on home ice in overtime to the Montreal Canadiens. The Hab fans go home very happy, whether they go back to, I don't know, St. Malo, or they go to, some of the other French communities in and around Winnipeg, St. Boniface.
No, Drew, look at the
Saint
comment
Vital.
from Jeff Bose. They just go back to their basements.
I'm not going to comment on that, Jeff, but it certainly does bring that extra dynamic to the arena, and you're going to see that at the end of January when the Leafs come to town on now Wednesday night.
And it's a home and home, right?
It is a home and home. Wednesday, Saturday, home and home.
Leafs fans are worse. Come on. It's not even a debate.
I would agree with that. Leafs fans are just, Habs fans I can understand.
I'm mainly saying that, Drew, because I'm scared of Habs fans. I was telling Dave, like, every time I go to Montreal, I obviously talk hockey with anybody, even if someone doesn't even want to talk to me about anything. I talk to them
They're like,
about
how'd you get in here,
Canadians,
Mr.
but
Ginsburg?
Who are you?
I would not piss off Montreal Canadiens fans. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. As look, on TV lately, they've been promoting the Borje Salming documentary, and he was a fantastic player. He was a wonderful player to watch. A little bit before my time, but I've seen enough clips and I've heard enough things to really know just how talented he was. But can you think of anything less that you'd want to sit through than an entire documentary about a Toronto Maple Leafs player? I mean, I'd rather poke toothpicks into my eyes. That's every day of our lives anyways. I don't need to watch another documentary, a fictionalized show about them. It's like, what did the rest of Canada do to deserve to be punished like that? But I digress.
Was the movie called 1967?
It wasn't called that, but that's they wouldn't make that documentary for whatever reason. Can't figure out why they wouldn't make that documentary.
No, hold on, Drew. Elias McCracken is asking, I thought I heard some of the Habs fans in the building booing Scheifele. Still, am I hearing things? No, I don't think you are hearing things. It did sound like there was still some Jake Evans. Anger with respect to the hit from a few years back in the playoffs. So they did seem to be a little bit of booing on Mark Scheifele when he touched the puck from the people in Habs jerseys.
I'm sorry, guys. Like, that was 3 years ago. Like, it's time to let that one go.
Well, you're the one who's afraid of the Habs fans. Go tell them. Why are you telling us? Let's get into the Betway game recap here on the Illegal Curve post-game show.
The Betway game recap.
Big thanks to our friends at Betway for their continued support of the Illegal Curve post-game show. The Illegal Curve post-game show is brought to you by Betway, and this is, of course, the Betway game recap, one of the most trusted voices in sports betting, both in Canada and all around the world. You must be 19 years or older to play, so we do encourage you to please play responsibly, but head on over to Betway and bet your way. A very sleepy first period, as we discussed, not a lot of action either side. Shots were 6-5 after 20 minutes, but the Montreal Canadiens do open the scoring in tonight's game at the 4:57 mark of the first period. It's a bit of a fluky one. Josh Anderson, who of course, last week was getting heavily criticized. I'm sure you all saw that viral video where he really couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a shotgun, as the old expression goes. Well, he's off the schneid and he's getting some goals. He got his fourth of the year now. Assist to Mike Matheson and the aforementioned Jake Evans. And it's a bit of a fluky one. Matheson has the puck. Anderson's got some inside position on Josh Morrissey, and the puck deflects off of Anderson past Connor Hellebuyck. And a bad bounce for the Jets, but a good bounce for the Habs, and it's 1-0 Montreal, Ezzy.
Yeah, and what stood out to me here, and I'm sure Dave noticed this too, and I'm just watching the replay to confirm what I saw because that was back in the second period. And you know how bad my short-term memory is, guys. But Morgan Barron makes a nice play off of the point shot, and he pokes the puck away from Jake Evans. But unfortunately, when he gets the puck, he tries to clear it along the boards and to Mark Scheifele, and it's a turnover, right? And, just skipping ahead, a little bit to the goal here, like, Mike Matheson puts it on net. And originally, I thought it actually just beat Hellebuck.
Right.
And then obviously on the replay, you can see that Hellebuck makes the initial save, and then it goes off of Josh Anderson's leg. And, I saw some people in the chat talking about, the first goal should have been disallowed. He kicked it in. I mean, that's not it has to be a distinct kicking motion. Most hockey fans know that, right? It's a bit of a fluky goal, but look at Josh Anderson goes to the net. Mike Matheson puts a pretty hard, I actually think Matheson's a pretty underrated player. I know a lot of Habs fans
thought he had a nice game.
Well, he can skate. And I remember watching him for Team Canada a few years back. I don't know if that was 3 or 4 years back. I think they won gold that year, Dave, in Europe at the World Hockey Championship. Matheson was there. He might have represented Canada a few times, but he's high risk. So I know a lot of Habs fans, don't like that, sometimes he gets, kind of, I don't know, a good comparable would be Seth Jones is kind of like that too, right? Like more of an offensive minded defenseman, and he gets caught a little bit. But yeah, just, nice shot by Matheson up high on Hellebuck, Dave. And then, Anderson, it just goes off of his leg. Like it's a fluky goal. But, just kind of one of those plays where Anderson's in the right place at the right time, right?
Yeah, and you're right, Ezzy. The highlight for me is the Jets just not clearing the puck when they have possession, right? Morgan Barron tries to make a soft chip to Mark Scheifele, but Mark Scheifele's got a man on him. So, I mean, it's a bit of a more risky play as opposed to maybe a little bit of a harder one along the glass and out. But, he does it, and he thinks Mark Scheifele's there, and Scheifele doesn't see Matheson, right? So it's unfortunate for the Jets, but it ends up in the back of their net, and they're down 1-0. And you kind of felt like that's the way it was, because Montreal was sticking around, because the Jets weren't taking the game over. And that's what you wanted to see, right? Like you wanted to see, were the Jets going to be able to exert their will over Montreal? Because again, as Drew pointed out to start this game, Montreal is a team that had 30 points coming in, right? 30 points in 30 games. Not that the Jets were way ahead of them, but the fact is that the Habs were, behind the Jets. And again, they were not one of those teams that folks are expecting to be a playoff team. So you wanted to see the Jets trying to impose their will, and they weren't doing that. And Montreal was sticking around. And because they were sticking around, you had a feeling that something like that was going to happen.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. You did sort of feel like it was going to be, and it wasn't going to be a clean one. It wasn't going to be something that was,
right.
Picture perfect. And it wasn't for Montreal, but good for them. Throw pucks on net, good things happen, and sometimes you get a deflection. And Josh Anderson, the guy who's has really been going through it and been struggling. So from
he
a
always
human
plays well against the Jets.
He does always play well against the Jets.
He plays well
every
against
time
the Jets, and he's a power forward, right?
Yeah.
And I was looking at that replay, and I'm not sure, Dave, if you noticed this, or I apologize if you already mentioned this, but Anderson actually does get a stick on Morgan Barron's little chip to Scheifele. So you got to give Anderson credit there. Like if you go back and watch the replay, hopefully everybody just continues watching the show and doesn't go on NHL.com. But I like to have all my browsers open.
Second screen. They can look at the replay while we talk about it, as long as stay with us.
Exactly. I'm not going to do a guarantee here, but I think there's a strong chance that Anderson's going to get traded prior to the trade deadline. I was just thinking off the top.
He's got 3 more years at $5.5 million on his contract there, Ezzy. I don't know how many people are picking that one up.
Well, I mean, you could always trade him, the next year. I mean, it's not necessary. Just because you're trading for him doesn't mean you're going to keep him for all 3 years. But fair enough. I mean, his contract it's not a great contract.
Right.
I'll leave it at that, Drew. You're right. I mean, it's not. I think if he was making like $3.5 million, it would be a lot more manageable.
He's probably a guy who's best off lower down in your lineup. That's because he's always going to leave a little bit more to be desired, because you look at him and he should be better, and he should contribute more given his combination of size and speed. And
there's a lot of miles on him though at this point in his career, right? Like he plays a heavy game, and he's not as quick as he once was.
No, but that's always been the knock on him, is that you've always wanted there to be more. Got a lot of the tantalizing upside, but hasn't really been able to put it together on a consistent basis. Nonetheless, 1-0 for Montreal.
He did, but anyways, I just want to end though that he does play always well against the Jets. It's hilarious. Every game you're like, oh, this guy's fantastic, and then you hear Montreal fans like wanting to tear him apart. And you're like, okay.
And then the controversial goal of the game, and we'll spend a couple minutes on this one, made it 2-0 for the Habs. It comes at the 15:04 mark. It's a power play goal. Christian Dvorak getting his third of the year. Anderson and Brendan Gallagher on the assists. And the
longest review ever.
Yeah, it was a three-song review.
Three songs.
That's right. If you want to
Why
consider how long.
Like, was it that complex? Like, it seemed pretty obvious to me that Anderson puts the puck down and he gets a stick on it. And that was the whole thing, that they were, if he doesn't touch it, then the play should have been called.
Right.
But
so
like, to me, it was pretty obvious. Like, the refs huddled and made their call on the ice, Dave. Like, you were in the arena for the first 2 periods. Like, I don't know what, like, it, like, I don't know. It just seemed like that review went on and on and on.
I don't know, but I could be honest with you. I thought they were going to disallow the goal. I really did. I didn't think the goal was going to stand because I didn't see them. I mean, you looked and you thought, okay, did Hellebuck's stick touch it? No. Did Schmidt touch it? No. So Dvorak's the next guy.
No, Anderson's stick touches it.
But did it though? I mean,
well,
it's one of those scenarios. I think
changes direction. Like, you could. That's what I was looking at, Dave. Anderson gloves the puck, puts it down, and then his stick touches the puck. At least that was my interpretation.
I tend to agree with Ezzy. If I have to, if I had to choose one side or the other, I did think that just barely, as a very faint deflection. So in case you missed the goal and you don't know what we're talking about, let me walk you through it. Josh Anderson is sort of to the right of Connor Hellebuck. The puck is in the air. He gloves it down, and then the question was, did he glove it down and then knock it over to Christian Dvorak, or did he glove it down and then on its own go to Christian Dvorak, who's then able to deposit it up and over Connor Hellebuck? So at first it was ruled a good goal on the ice. The officials got together and huddled about it, and they maintained the call. They said it's a good goal on the ice, at which point in time Rick Bowness then challenged it. And I tend to agree with Ezzy, and that makes me feel a little bit queasy to say that out loud. But I do think that very faintly, just to the smallest amount, Josh Anderson got a tiny piece of the puck off of his stick to pass it over to Dvorak. Now, had the officials ruled on the ice that it was a hand pass and Montreal challenged it, I don't believe there would have been enough to overturn it. So I think they had to go with the call on the ice because the video to me was not conclusive enough to say one way or the other.
I disagree. I got to tell you, I've watched it a number of times. I just watched the replay while you were talking, and I'm listening to you, Drew.
Well, then why was the goal allowed to stand then?
Well, because obviously the video review department agrees with you and I, Ezzy, but I can only understand how Dave, who's an unbiased individual in this, and with all due respect to the fans who might be joining us.
Hold on, Drew, are we biased? I'm pretty sure we're all unbiased.
Well, I know that, but I'm talking about fans are biased, so they may not necessarily be seeing it as.
Hold on, let me rip off my Habs fan. Let me rip off my Habs jersey, Dave.
Well, I mean, look, I'm just telling you what my observation is. I mean, I watched it in the building, which, I mean, again, it's far from where we are in the press box. So it's not like I saw it with the naked eye, but I don't know. I'm just telling you, I've watched the review like 6 different angles, and like they've shown it over and over and over again. And I'm telling you right now, like to me, Anderson puts the puck down. It bounces over. It looks like he's got the stick slightly, but it bounces over his stick, over Hellebuck's stick, over Schmidt's stick, and then Dvorak puts it into the net. So to me personally, I'm calling that no goal. I think that should have been. I think it should have been disallowed because nobody touches it except for Dvorak. So it's a hand pass.
Anderson stick touches it.
Well, I'm telling you right now, I don't agree. I watched the replay, and I think he missed it. From if you watch the third review,
you don't even have to look at different angles either. There's one angle, and it's clear that his stick touches it.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't think it did, but that's just my own personal opinion.
Obviously we're going to agree to disagree on this.
I'll disagree with both of you.
I was going to say the idea of watching Dave and Ezzy fight leaves me feeling like mom and dad are fighting right now. So I'm a little bit.
No, we're not fighting. We're just arguing about it, I guess. But
I thought Jamal Myers on the broadcast. I think he, when he was giving his analysis on it, he says, they can sort of see the puck the spin of the puck changed, and that is when he thought that Anderson touched it. And I sort of tend to agree with him there, but it was very, very close. There's no question about it. It's not.
And I understand that it has to be decisive. Like, you have to be able to overturn, because the call on the ice was a goal. So it's not like it can be, inconclusive. You have to be able to say that it wasn't. But again, like I said, I just think that if he gets it, he puts it right or left. He doesn't necessarily hit it straight based on the angle. Like, if you look at the way Anderson's coming at Hellebuck, I mean, again, like I said, it's hard to determine. I'm watching it now, like for the third or fourth time. It definitely takes a weird bounce, but I mean, to me, it takes a weird bounce because he drops it onto the ice. So the spin is caused by his hand dropping the puck, not necessarily his stick. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, fair enough. Like I said, there's no
probably
way
why they reviewed it for that long, Dave, to be honest with you, right?
Yeah.
Because if it was that obvious, it wouldn't have taken 25 minutes to review that goal.
Or as Spency says, this discourse is taking even longer than the review.
This is a 7-song discourse versus the 3-song.
Spency cooked up a stack of pancakes on his flat top grill while we were debating that goal.
Oh, I don't know. All I know is that the chat agrees with me. So I will take the champion belt on this one. Thank you,
congratulations. Chat. We should get a champion belt. The Jets do successfully kill off the penalty that came with the unsuccessful challenge. And then they were able to cut the Habs lead in half. And it's Gabe Vilardi getting his 5th of the year, assist to Josh Morrissey and Nikolai Ehlers. And it's just a beautiful shift by the Jets top line of Ehlers, Scheifele, and Vilardi. They just cycle the Habs to death. And I mean, you saw a lot of switch offs. You saw a lot of really nice puck possession by the Winnipeg Jets on this play. And it's a very important goal. And Vilardi, again, is just too much for the Habs to handle in front of the net. I believe it's David Savard, who is the defender trying to handle Gabe Vilardi, and he can't. And Vilardi puts it past Jake Allen to make it a 2-1 game late in the second period, as he.
Yeah, and Vilardi beat Savard to the puck in the corner prior to that. And about 10 seconds or so before this goal was scored, Ehlers, I know Dave probably was, if he's in his usual spot, he would have had a good view of Ehlers spinning from behind the net and then missing the net by a lot prior to that goal. So, and then you're right, Ehlers, Morrissey, and Scheifele, they were doing their thing, their Harlem Globetrotters thing, where they, rotate along the blue line. And look, Gabe Vilardi is just in a great spot to handle that rebound. And you're right, he beats David Savard there. But that was a huge goal, right? Because it came late in the second period.
Mm-hmm.
How much time was left? I feel like there was only a couple.
56 seconds.
I was going to say a couple minutes, but they didn't really have a lot of momentum. So going into the second intermission, you have some momentum. You're only down a goal as opposed to 2, and Vilardi stays hot, right? I think he's got 7 points now in his last 3 games, something like that. So yeah, that line obviously wasn't as dominant as they were against the Avalanche or the Kings, Dave. But Vilardi just, I mean, that's a goal scorer's goal, right? Like, he just got rewarded for positioning and hard work.
Well, and that's what you wanted to see from the top line again.
We're not fighting, are we, Dave? I hope people know that just because we were disagreeing about that doesn't mean Dave and I aren't fighting.
People look. The reality is the whole this isn't the illegal curve. We agree with each other's show. I mean, the whole point is that we're allowed to have difference of opinions. Usually, you and I like to gang up on Drew. So Well,
that's why Drew's sitting back and he's salivating.
Yeah,
because Drew.
Unfortunately, he doesn't realize. He doesn't realize Ezzy and I ride or die together. There's very little that's ever going to get in between the two of us.
We do ride or die.
So there's that's never happening. Just a small blip in the Ginsburg Manuk relationship. Not a thing to worry about, especially when I have the backing of the crowd. But look, the fact of the matter is that the Jets needed that goal, says Captain Obvious, because they wanted to build something, and there wasn't a lot, but that was a dominant shift by that line. I mean, as he's touching on it, it looked like a 5-on-4. If only the Jets could play with the power play that effectively. But they really did. They cycled well. And it's just funny that today after morning skate, we talked about with Gabe Vilardi about the Macarena and his choice of it. And he said that his best friend back in Kingston, Ontario. What's that? Oh, you're doing the Macarena. So he talked about how his best friend back in Kingston told him that would be a funny song to pick. So that was the one he chose. And he's jokingly said, the fans really seem into it. Well, he's given them a lot of chances to hear that song. That song's going to be trending pretty soon because he's scoring a lot of goals at Canada Life. and they're hearing it play. But yeah, it was an impressive goal, and it was an important goal, obviously, to get the Jets back into the game. And you like to see that line working effectively and down low and playing strong. And I didn't think Ehlers had a particularly good game today. I thought he just didn't look like he had it going, but I thought Velarde made a lot of good plays.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It wasn't anybody's best game, but I thought Velarde certainly was noticeable for the Winnipeg Jets.
Mhm.
And so the second period ends after 40 minutes. It's 2-1 for the Montreal Canadiens. We say again as the clock ticks past the top of the hour. Good evening to everyone watching us. This is the Illegal Curve post-game show. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. We do this after each and every Winnipeg Jets game. We'll do it again on Wednesday night after the Jets and the Detroit Red Wings, same time, right around 9:15.
Which goaltender will be in net for the Red Wings? They keep losing.
Chris Osgood.
It might be Morwena, Manitoba's James Reimer, because they've lost another. I think they lost another goaltender. Either they're playing tonight or from last night, but they lost a goal.
They lost to the
tonight.
Anaheim Ducks tonight, so they
and whoever was in net, was it Nedeljkovic? He may have. I think he got injured, so they've had some injuries.
Nedeljkovic is on the Pens now, Dave.
Oh, then who was it? Who was it in net?
The goaltender for the Ducks for the Red Wings tonight was Ville Husso.
Husso. Husso got hurt.
Okay, so then it'll be James Reimer. Reimer came in after Husso went out.
Isn't Reimer pretty good last time he played the Jets? I feel like he was. Jets
he did have
the
a good
Red
game.
Wings, right?
Yeah, they won in
good.
Detroit.
Yeah.
But I remember Reimer having a pretty decent game.
He did.
I would expect it's going to be Laurent Brossoit for the Jets on Wednesday as well.
Yeah, there was no. Rick Bowness was asked that. He gave a typical "we'll see" today in his morning availability. But yeah, you suspect that you'll see him against Detroit, and you'll see Hellebuck against Boston.
Yeah, that'll wrap up the pre-Christmas season.
Alex just wanted to mention for Dave, Alex Lyon is the other goaltender, longtime AHL goalie. I think he's from Minnesota. He's the other goalie there, but goaltending's been an issue for them this year.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No question about that. In any event, that'll be on Wednesday night, right around 9:15. The Jets and the Red Wings after that game on Wednesday. So 2-1 for the Habs. Pardon me. I'll eventually get the team name right. And the Jets start the third period the way you want to see a team start the third period, especially a team trailing on home ice. And they come out and they're out shooting Montreal at a point in time, I think by a 12-2 margin, and they eventually tie it up. It's not a power play goal. Pardon me. It's Cole Perfetti getting it. His 10th of the year, assist of Vlad Nemesnikov and Brendan Dillon. And it's a dump in, and then it's a low to high play by the Winnipeg Jets. And, Perfetti does a really nice job in shaking off Sean Monahan and just really, using his speed and his agility to get to some open ice. And we talked about Jake Allen earlier. He has a tendency to give up a juicy rebound, and the Jets had a lot of trouble earlier in this game. And for a lot of this game, capitalizing on some of those juicy rebounds. Not this one. The Jets were able to capitalize on it, and Perfetti had a wide open net to tuck it into, and that tied the game up at 2 with just about 7.5 minutes to play in the third period, Ezzy.
Yeah, and I mean, there's not too much I can add there, Drew. Like you mentioned, it's a juicy rebound from Jake Allen, but the Jets really were controlling the play for most of that third period. And I was saying to Dave, like, they were entering that zone and basically, doing what they wanted, and that's to me where a more talented, experienced team takes over for a less talented, younger team, right? And, a guy like Jaden Struble, I didn't know a lot about him. I think he was a kind of a mid-round pick. He looked good to me. We mentioned Mike Matheson, obviously, factored in on the first Habs goal. And then they've also got Caden Gooley in there. Like, when you consider Gooley, sorry, I'm going on a bit of a Habs lunch tangent here.
And then his mic goes out.
So we have the power to cut his microphone.
Lane Hudson, it's been following. Yeah. No, just mentioning Lane Hudson is going to be, a stud on the back end for the Habs in the near future. He almost looks like a forward when he plays. He puts up big offensive numbers in American college hockey. But just Cole Perfetti, again, right place at the right time. And, the Jets were just absolutely dominating. So it wasn't a pretty goal, but they tie up the game, and then they had all the momentum. And that's what's unfortunate about the late penalty that we're going to talk about here coming up, into the overtime winner, because Nick Ehlers takes that penalty and it just puts the Jets at a big disadvantage in overtime. But there's no doubt that the Jets just absolutely, were possessing the puck with ease against the Habs in that third.
Yeah, because the Jets are a better team than the Habs. But after the 60 minutes of regulation time is played, there are no additional goals, so it's 2-2 after 60 minutes. But as you mentioned, with 27 seconds to play in the third period, after an icing call, the Jets end up taking a penalty. Nikolai Ehlers trips down, I believe it was Mike Matheson, if I'm not mistaken, but correct me if I'm wrong on that one. And the Habs are going to start overtime.
It was Matheson, Dave.
Yeah.
Drew, you're right.
Yeah, the Habs are going to start overtime with a 4-on-3 power play. As a result, Ehlers did not like the call because he felt as though he was interfered with off of the face-off.
And he was.
And he was interfered with, but again, it's not going to be something that's called in that situation because the referees and the officials tend to swallow their whistles as they did, like they do in a lot of sports. So this isn't strictly an NHL thing. It's a game management is something that is an issue for officiating in all different sports. We know that the last couple minutes of an NBA game are often officiated differently than a Hail Mary play with regard to pass interference in the NFL is officiated differently than all other pass plays. But so be it. The Habs start overtime with the power play. It ends up being there's additional penalties called while the power play is still going on. So with Adam Lowry going for cross-checking and Mike Matheson going for closing his hand on the puck simultaneous on the same play. So those are offsetting penalties, still 4-on-3. And then Justin Barron with his sixth. He gets the winner. It's the Battle of the Barons, and Justin wins it for the Montreal Canadiens. This also doubles as our Seagram shot of the game.
The Seagram shot of the game.
Big thanks to our friends at Seagram's for their continued support of the Illegal Curve post-game show. If you're looking for a special bottle of something to drink this holiday season, may we recommend Seagram's 83, Manitoba's #1 whiskey, available at your local liquor mart. Seagram's, big sponsor of the Illegal Curve hockey show and, of course, the Illegal Curve post-game show. So this one, the game-winning goal in overtime, with Nikolai Ehlers and Adam Lowry still in the penalty box at the 109 mark. Justin Barron, his sixth assist to Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki. They move the puck, they move their feet, they get a shot lane, and as a result, the Montreal Canadiens defeat the Winnipeg Jets by a 3-2 margin. I think you're on mute, Ezzy.
No, I'm not on mute.
Oh, okay. I just couldn't hear what you're saying then.
Am I coming in okay?
Now you're good.
This is not a lie. We're sitting here watching the game in overtime, and what did I say to Dave? I said, "Is this going to be a Baron on Baron, a Baron fight or whatever?" I don't know what I said. I basically made some joke.
Baron on Baron violence.
Yeah, I made a joke about is this going to be are these two players going to fight it out in overtime? The goal was scored by Justin Barron with Morgan Barron trying to block the shot. You can't make this stuff up.
Christmas is going to be awkward in the Barron family.
Well, look, I mean, both players are very talented.
Yeah.
Morgan Barron, I think, absolutely deserves a shot in the second line. We talked about that on the Saturday morning show at Farmery. Morgan Barron, because, of course, he's been on the fourth line for the majority of the year, and he was on the third line for the majority of last season. So I think Morgan Barron has more to give. He's got 5 goals, I believe, so far, and I think he'll continue to play on the second line if something changes. But look, it's a nice shot, and they're killing off a penalty. The Jets, I think, you could argue, are maybe a little bit too deep, and maybe giving the Habs a little bit too much space.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's just a nice shot by Justin Barron. I think you just got to give him credit on that goal.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of time and there's a lot of space when it's 4-on-3 power play, and especially when you're moving your feet, and that's a lesson for the Jets. I mean, you can see how Montreal on their power plays had more motion and was far less stationary than the Jets' power play has been, and it's surprising for a team that like the Jets that are very good at cycling the puck, that their power play just becomes so redundant and becomes so just like I said, sluggish when it comes to puck movement. It's just like a ball stopper in basketball. The best basketball is played when the ball is zipping around. The best power plays are executed when the puck is zipping around. And that's something certainly that the Jets will need to deal with. And this is one where Montreal takes advantage of that, Dave. And it's, as a result, it's a 3-2 win for the Habs.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets are, as you said, Drew, they're just standing around watching, and they're deep. They're in the triangle, and they're just too deep. And, unfortunately for them, Barron has a lot of net to shoot at. And, I thought Connor Hellebuck would have seen it. First time he's given up 3 goals, in like 10 games now or something like that?
Games, so I think 9 games, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So, I mean, he's still haven't given up 3 or more in now, I think 20 games. But
20.
The fact of the matter is, it's not a great game by the Jets, but at the same time, you're happy that you got a point in a game that you didn't play particularly well, right? And I want to mention, and I've seen a few comments, and I agree with it, because sometimes they don't get any credit, especially when they don't put up any points. I thought the fourth line was good again today. I thought David Gustafsson made an impact when he was on the ice, and actually,
a lot of people wanted Gus Bus on the for that face-off, Dave.
Well, I mean, I would have used
in overtime. I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about, because Barron plays center a little bit, but I would have chosen.
You want to know their Corsi 4 percentage?
Sure.
Yes, 92.3%.
Well, then I guess my assessment is fairly accurate. But again, like I said, I'm not surprised, because they played a good game. They played a hard game, and now I don't know what were their minutes, Drew.
They played 5:36 at 5-on-5.
Yeah, so I mean, again. Yeah. Not a ton of ice time, unfortunately, for them. But I mean, again, they're a good. They work hard when they get the opportunity, and so they tried to impose their will. They had a couple of chances, but I just think that they deserve mention, because sometimes we talk about these games and we don't actually, if they don't end up on the scoreboard, then we don't necessarily mention them. But I thought they were good tonight.
2 Swedes and a Maritimer, Dave. What could go wrong?
That is the Betway game recap here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. The Montreal Canadiens victorious by a 3-2 margin. When we come back, did Connor Hellebuck agree with Ezzy and me, or did he agree with Dave? We'll tell you the answer. That's coming up next. It's the
always Dave. The answer is always
the Illegal Curve post-game show. We're live on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms.
Your coworkers love you because you always make them laugh. You're the life of the party with stories that have them rolling on the floor. Or maybe you're just the quiet one in the corner with the one-liners that just slay. Do you have what it takes to become Winnipeg's funniest person with a day job? Try your luck. Hit the stage at Rumors Comedy Club, and you could be walking away with $1,000 cash. Winnipeg's funniest person with a day job. Presented by Rumors. For all the details, head to rumorscomedyclub.com.
So you're a pizza person, you married a wing person, but somehow your kids are salad people. You can't pick your fam, but you can pick your BP meal deal, starting from $18.99 for takeout or delivery at bostonpizza.com.
The game can change just like that. Accidents happen when you aren't protected. So now what? Getting to your injury quickly can make all the difference. Help prevent them from being game changers with Linden Market Dental Center. Bonding, crowns, bridges, and dental implants. State-of-the-art treatments are available to help you get back in the game. To learn more, visit LindenMarketDentalCenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Boston Pizza harnessed Betalytics to test if the game is better at home or at Boston Pizza. The results are irrefutable. Catch the game at Boston Pizza, powered by Betalytics.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. Welcome back. Monday evening, it's the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg with you, talking about the Jets and the Montreal Canadiens. Wednesday night, it'll be the Jets and the Detroit Red Wings, so you can stay tuned for that right around 9:15 Central Time, 10:15 Eastern Time, depending on whatever time zone you may be joining us from on Wednesday night to talk about the second game of this 4-game homestand for the Winnipeg Jets.
Can we say the Andrew Kopp revenge game, or is that because it's his second year? We can't say that anymore.
We can't say that anymore. No, that's not something you can say. I don't think that works at all. But I appreciate the effort. Connor Hellebuck about the Josh Anderson glove pass to Christian Dvorak. Quote, he gets a lucky bounce as it bounces off the ice and just nicks the top of his stick.
Ooh.
So Connor Hellebuck says the officials got it right. So it's one thing.
What does Hellebuck know? It's not like he had a good viewpoint or anything.
All right.
There you go. Dave M., you take the L on this
I'll take
one.
it.
But Connor Hellebuck
Dave M.
says
takes
the goal.
no L.
The Connor Hellebuck says the goal was a good one, and the refs made the right call. And
I mean, guys, the reality is the puck barely touched Josh Anderson's stick. Right?
Yeah.
Like if you really wanted to dissect this, right? Like you'd have to do a super zoom, like they do, to see if the puck crosses the goal line, right? Like it was.
Can you tell us more about super zoom, Dr. Science?
Yeah.
There you...
Fair enough.
Anyways, there you have it. From the horse's mouth himself, Connor Hellebuck saying it's a good goal on that one. So they're gonna have to find something else to complain about. Fortunately, I'm sure will be some other controversial calls that people will not like in the course of that game. Here's more from Rick Bowness. Honestly, it comes down to special teams. It's another game that we lost, the special teams battle, and that's what cost us the extra point. As I said, I said this one before. The 5-on-5 play is very, very good. The team play is very, very good.
By the way, Drew, I've got breaking news. According to Valerie Cook, she was not in the hospitality industry. She used to be a nurse.
Oh, then I got that completely wrong. I must be thinking of somebody else. Sorry, Val.
But she does think we're funny. So
okay, well there you go. That works then. Hey, look, nurses deserve all the credit in the world. So she gets full marks for being a nurse and keeping us boors alive every now and then.
So Drew, though, if you knew she was a nurse, why did you think she was in the hospitality industry?
I clearly didn't know that she was a nurse, Ezzy. I had no clue. I must be mistaking her for somebody else. Is what we're finding out here. But I was wrong. As much as Dave was wrong before, I was wrong before. Does that mean Ginsburg's the only one who hasn't been wrong on this show?
All right. Well, the show's done.
Time to wrap up this ridiculous.
When I show up for any of these shows, I'm wrong about something. Like just my presence alone is somehow wrong. But yes, I'm actually looking. I'm on top right now, even though I'm on the bottom of the screen.
See, Spency's right. Spency says she's in the hospital industry. I got confused between hospital and hospitality.
Gotcha.
It could happen to the best of us. Rick Bowness, I count 5 or 6 games where we lost the game based on special teams. So that's the Jets head coach disappointed in the PP and the PK. And last one from Rick Bowness about Josh Morrissey's face. It's going to be pretty swollen tomorrow. There's a pretty good chance he's going to have a good shiner. Give him full marks for coming back. He's a tremendous competitor. He might have a shiner. He also might have a massive hole in his cheek. I think those are going to be the 2 issues that Josh is going to have to worry about as he took that puck right in the side of the face. I think who was it? Nick Suzuki? Was that who the shot came from?
I think so.
Or was it Cole Caulfield? One or the other.
Same difference.
Exactly.
Boys, I have a bit of breaking news. I just checked to see if I got any text on my phone. I only had one from Naomi from 26 minutes ago. She said, "Going to sleep. Your grouchiness in the morning is annoying."
So hang on. She knows that you're going to be grumpy in the morning ahead of time?
I think what she was trying to say is like, go to bed as soon as you come home from Dave's, and you're not going to be as annoying because you get more sleep. But I just thought that was funny that she said that my grouch, like, I'm pretty sure I'm just annoying in general, but she's specifically saying here, my grouchiness in the morning is annoying. But I thought you'd get a kick out of that, Drew, and maybe some other people would find that funny.
I do. Some wives say, "I love you, sleep tight, drive safe." Your wife says, "Just don't be an ass when you wake her up in the morning." So
Exactly.
they're both terms of endearment, just in their own special way. How about that? Ezzy, do you have a tough duck comment, or do you want me to go to the Manuk Moose Minute first?
I absolutely have a tough duck comment, but if we want to do Manuk Moose Minute first, we can do that.
Okay.
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Manuk Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
My time to shine. Here we go. Manuk Moose Minute, a Sunday afternoon game, a rematch with the Milwaukee Admirals. The Moose have a pattern, Ezzy.
Did they change the team name?
No,
I'm confused. Is Dave talking in the first person right now, or third person? I can't tell.
They lose the first game of a series and win the second game, and that's what they were hoping would continue. They were 2-7 in the first game of a series, 7-2 going into yesterday in the second game of a series, and they were, like I said, hoping to keep that going against the Admirals, their big playoff rival the last couple of years, and they got off to a very good start. Jeffrey Viel, who had himself a hell of a game, he scored a minute 35 into this contest. Nice pass by, he puts home Tyrell Bauer shot. Dmitry Kuzmin, the 2021 third rounder, he was briefly sent down to the CHL to play for Norfolk, where he played on Wednesday. Then he got recalled on Thursday, and he played for the Moose. He actually had his best game, I thought, in the AHL, and he picked up his first AHL point. The Admirals tied it about 14 minutes later. Really nice play. And Oskari Salminen was excellent in the game. I think that was about the 14th shot. That was a power play goal. Didn't have much of a chance. 1-1. And you're thinking, okay, well, let's see what the Moose are going to do. How are they going to respond? They didn't respond particularly well in that second. The Admirals took a 2-1 lead. And then something the Moose have been giving up a tremendous amount, boys. Shorthanded goals. They gave up another one in this game. And suddenly a 2-1 game became a 3-1 game. And you thought, oh boy, here you go again. And as good as Nashville's looked in the NHL, their AHL team continues to fire. But on that same power play, Nikita Chibrikov passes over to Brad Lambert. He takes a shot, and Kyle Capobianco was in the right place at the right time, and he buries the rebound on the power play. That's his fifth goal of the season to make it a 3-2 game going into the third. And so you're thinking, well, what are these Moose made of? Well, we found out, because they started off, again, very good. Christian Reichel, that monkey is back in the zoo now. It's well off his back. He scores his third.
Organs? I mean, that would be what I would assume the Moose are made out of, is organs. Organs, blood, tissue, DNA?
Drew, maybe mute yourself. Come on. If you're better than that.
What the hell are you talking about right now?
He said, what are the Moose made out of? So I thought that would be what Moose are made out of.
This is really when you need to, Ezzy, mute that man. Anywho. So the Moose take they tie the game. Christian Reichel gets his third goal of the season, assist to Jeffrey Viel. Really nice play by Chaz Lucius, who had been out the previous series. He was back in, and he made a really nice play to protect the puck behind the net, then put it out in front, and then Viel got it on net, and Reichel finished it off. And then a highlight goal, and really a Jets prospects goal on this one. Nikita Chibrikov, about 5 minutes after Reichel tied the game, Nikita Chibrikov, he goes for a skate, and you've got it on the Legal Curve Instagram, and I've tweeted it as well. But the 2021 second rounder, he makes a phenomenal play, gets it over to Tyrell Bauer, who puts it over to Brad Lambert, who just one times it home, and that was his, I think, 9th goal of the season. So now all of a sudden it's a 4-3 lead, and the Moose don't stop there. Well, 4 minutes later, Parker Ford, he puts home, oh, what a surprise, a Jeffrey Viel assist. And that was to make it a 5-2 game for the Moose. And then they made it 5-4, sorry. Sorry, I'm losing my mind here. It was 5-3, and then they made it 5-4. And then Jeffrey Viel with the empty netter with about 6 seconds to go in the game. So he had 2 goals, 2 assists in the game. He had a really nice game. He was the first star of the game. And a lot of the prospects came to shine and played well, including Lambert, Chibrikov, Tyrell Bauer, and Dmitry Kuzmin, who had 2 assists in his first first points in the AHL game.
Dave, can we go back to talking about moose biology with Drew Mandel?
And hold on, before we completely move off of the prospects, should mention, Ezzy, because it's worth mentioning, that Thomas Milic is continuing to have a really good season down in the ECHL with Norfolk. Let me just pull up his numbers, because he's 9-2-1 with a 920 save percentage and a goals against average of 2.24. And he stopped 39 shots of 39 saves on 40 shots in his last game, including a penalty shot. And the other one we should mention, Ezzy, is the 2023 draft pick, Jacob Julian, who is up to 14 goals, 24 assists for 38 points in 32 games in the OHL, which is good for 15th. And he's with the London Knights right now.
There you go. Dave M giving the recap of everything to do with the Moose and some Jets prospects.
The Moose are back in action tomorrow morning, school day game in Chicago. I think they're playing at 10 o'clock. So we'll have coverage of that, of course, on the site, on my Twitter. And so that'll lead into Jets practice, which starts at 12 noon.
There you go. Dave M's got it covered. It's all on illegalcurve.com, as you all well know. Let's wrap it up. Tough Duck, hardest hitting comment, Ezzy.
The Tough Duck hardest hitting comment.
Lots of good comments tonight, so thank you everybody who is participating in the chat, and also thank you to everybody who watches, because I'm sure you guys get people. And I know I work with somebody at Sport Manitoba who tells me that they watch the post-game show, but they don't participate in the chat. So we want to also, people don't necessarily have to chat. It can be a little bit intimidating because we have, a lot of regulars, but so I just wanted to get that in there as well. But we're going to give it to Chris, Jets fan. I have a couple comments, but I like this one. The problem is we suffered last couple of seasons with Jets declining performance and losses against weaker opponents, just when we were hoping things were different this time. And I think that goes back to, boys, what we were talking about during the first 15 or 20 minutes of the show. Like, the Jets have lost a couple games now to teams that, on paper, they should easily beat, obviously being the Sharks and then tonight against the Habs. So I think, all it takes is, you fall asleep for a little bit, or you take some unfortunate penalties and it comes back to bite you, right? Doesn't matter who you're playing. Could be San Jose, Montreal, whoever. So I like that comment. Chris, Jets fan, I see him often in the chat. We see him often in the chat. So Chris, send me an email, ezra@illegalcurve.com, with your mailing info, and Tough Duck will ship out a toque to you. And as we saw, I was telling Drew, we ran into each other at our kids' school. The one day that I pick to drop off my car at Fountain Tire and then walk to work downtown, for those who listen to the show, I work in the Sport Manitoba building. This is a good 20-minute walk, and it happened to be minus 50 as I was walking to work today. So, of course, I picked that day to get my car winterized. But, so I'm not sure why I mentioned that, but Chris sent me an email. Oh, because the Tough Duck toque. You need a toque. Toques. Cold. Toques. Cold.
I've never seen somebody digress on themselves in the middle of a statement, but that
was a digression.
That dog has a puffy tail incident from Ginsburg right there. So we all enjoyed that.
I have ADHD going way back to the 80s. So
yeah, that's right. You have ADHD before it was cool and diagnosable.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, if having ADHD is cool, then just call me Miles Davis.
That's it for this Monday edition of the Illegal Curve post-game show. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We always appreciate your efforts in doing that. Wednesday night, the Illegal Curve post-game show, 9:15 p.m. back here on our regular home here on the social medias. Long-awaited return of an Illegal Curve favorite on Wednesday's post-game show. So you will not want to miss Wednesday's show. And I tell you, folks, I've been told from reliable sources, this, I don't know if the word individual is right, but this object is looking resplendent and fabulous. So stay tuned on Wednesday for a long-awaited return here on the post-game show.
Drew, tell us more about what a moose is made of.
I will. I'm going to look it up. That's exactly what I'm going to do.
I'm still stuck on that, Dave. What was Drew talking about there?
He just needs to hear himself talk, as you got
blood and organisms or something. I don't know what you
said. Organs. I said blood and DNA and organs. Probably some tissue.
What about bones? I think moose have bones as well, Drew.
They have bones too.
We just thank our sponsors.
Yeah, I will before they jump off ship. I don't blame them. Big
I'm
thank you
about
to
to
the
jump ship.
sponsors, Illegal Curve, who make the post game show, the Saturday show, and the website a possibility. Our friends at Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Betway, they're the title sponsor, Tough Duck, Boston Pizza, Seagram's, Rolly's Transfer, and of course our friends at Farmery Beer. Support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. Habs win 3-2 in Winnipeg. We'll be back Wednesday night. For Dave Manouk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Until about 9:15 p.m. on Wednesday night, we wish you good night and good luck. And thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, follow at Illegal Curve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, illegalcurve.com.